One done by Fela Ransom Kuti out of Nigeria, done in fine style by the man called Hugh Masekela out of South Africa. The man talking about calling a woman African woman. Him say if you call a woman African woman, she going nah go agree. She going say she a lady, she not African. It's a serious thing. She go say she a lady. You go say, but what me African queen? Me not an African queen. Me's a lady. And that is something we continue in the minds of a whole heap of people. Them prefer the Mr. and the Master and the Mrs. and the Mistress and the lady and the sir. You know, them can't take the idea of you associate them with some half-naked, barbaric, uncivilized people in some bush country or continent. And it still continue. It still continue. And it's just weird that we keep having to do the same thing and say the same thing over and over. If we really put it in the minds of black people, African people, that this thing is deep. It's deep in our man. It's sinking our deep. It's almost like it penetrates with DNA and become we. That we hate ourselves. We hate ourselves, man. Everything African, everything black. We really, I figure, say, no, that's enough for me. You tell some youth on the road about Africa now, them know like that. And Miami and New York, them are penetrate, or Brixton. Them know, you know, you have some little daughters now, if the thing now, a whole heap of light and bling around it, them know like that, and them don't know, see, Africa have all of them things there and more. Africa have all of them things there and more. But we who take up the responsibility for re-educate, or should I say educate the African people, not that them wasn't educated, but really actually them wasn't. We were all indoctrinated. We have been indoctrinated for hundreds of years. We have been indoctrinated. And then we call the indoctrination education, because all the indoctrination do is to regurgitate white supremacy out of a black skin. That is what really happening. We have become so white in our heads that we almost keep the flag of white supremacy higher than white people themselves. A whole heap away, especially the leaders them, especially the preacher and the pastor them. They're more white than the white man who give them the thinking and the thought, the political and religious ideas with them having and them thinking. Crazy. It's crazy. Really crazy. Out of Senegal come this Virginia. Yes, out of South Africa. Zulu music, you know. I will want to hear about Zulu. There is a nation of people named the Zulu people. Big nation in southern Africa. You know, it's the only country where them call the area, the place, the name of the country. Yeah, it is southern Africa, them call the country South Africa. But it's really Azania. A whole heap of people call it Azania. But they refuse to hold on for the name Azania. They prefer to say South Africa. But South Zimbabwe is also in southern Africa too. And Namibia. Lesotho and all these places, but them choose to differentiate that part and call it South Africa. This is the Cutting Edge and RFM. We're going through the African experience, because that is what we are all about. We're not changing top. We're African, not because we was born in Africa, but because Africa was born in us. And that we say continuously. I will not stop saying it. Let's stop saying it. Salif Keita out of Mali. Mali. Whole heap of problem are going on in Mali right now. Whole heap of problem. Yeah, music coming from Mali by way of France. Because you know, say Mali is colonized by the French. Senegal is colonized by the French. All of them countries up in the north, they're colonized by the French. It's a terrible thing. Haiti was colonized by the French. Martinique was colonized by the French. Guadeloupe almost come like it's still colonized by the French. The French, the English, the Portuguese is really some serious colonizers. They maintain white supremacy up to this day over the so-called independent state them that them colonize. Because them left them mark there, them left them symbols, them left them ideas, them thoughts, them logics, them reasoning, them culture, them left it there. And the people, them, the original people, them of those lands, is left to wallow. To wallow. And now, they have to fight again for them liberation and freedom. They have to keep fighting for liberation and freedom. White supremacy is a terrible thing. Yes, so when we talk about white supremacy, because it's the first we ever hear white supremacy mentioned so much time on international television. Because when we really talk about white supremacy, people have said them think they don't exist again. But we know and we understand a whole heap of things where we say it is a work in progress. Yes, a work in progress. A whole heap of people don't want to hear that, don't want to even know, say, them colonized still. Even in Jamaica, people feel so we're independent, yet still when we look on the progress and the regress, we are depending on others for our survival. We don't feed ourselves, we don't clothe ourselves. You know, simple that. If you not feed yourself and you not clothe yourself, and the majority of people that move upon your land is not owning the land, then you are not independent. Land is the basis of power. If you don't have no land, you don't have no power. If you're not feeding yourself and the other man is feeding you, that means that you are at the mercy of the other man. It's simple logics, simple logics. You know, you're at the mercy of the next person if they're feeding you. And we're not being fed by ourselves. We don't have a sustainable food plan. We are the guys that talk about sustainability and sustainability, but food, the most important thing to the survival of human beings. We, in a Caribbean island, import most of the things that we eat. We plant food for export to other countries. You know, America is food sustainable. Most of what them eat is them grow it. Yet still, them can afford to import a whole heap of things where them see it as exotic. We import the exotic, not from Jamaica, but from where we believe is exotic place. And we give rise to an economy that is dependent. And then we say we're independent. How can we be independent when right now, when you look at our coffee, and we're not talking about the artists who name coffee, we are talking about the coffee come from up at the Blue Mountain, where everybody say is the best coffee in the world. We see the farmers, them almost don't want to plant coffee again because them get ripped off, the big guys, them come in, the Chinese, them come in, or the Japanese, them, and rip off the thing to the point where now it come like it don't even make no sense. So you have a whole heap of people foreign now get coffee from all over the place and now stick on Jamaican coffee pan it, Blue Mountain coffee. When a whole heap of people know say it's not Jamaican Blue Mountain coffee. But for those of them who don't know, buy it because Them always hear say Blue Mountain coffee is the best coffee in the world. But we, Jamaican people, it's really a serious problem when we plant things to export. We're planting food to export. I don't know how these leaders, so-called, not aware of this ridiculous idea. Planting things to export, planting things for the tourist market. Or you cannot plant things for tourists. You have to plant things for the people them who depend on the land itself. That is what we are talking about. Plant the food where they depend on the land. Give the people them the land, free up the land. Make the people them do what they want to do with it. And stop by the whole heap of tin this and tin that and foreign this and foreign that. It's crazy. It's crazy that we can't afford Blue Mountain coffee in Jamaica. Because they plant the coffee for ship it away. Coming up, our lecture for the night, John Henry Clarke, Africa have no friends. Africa have no friends. That is what we're going to present. Serious lecture. I want to tell your friend them to tune in. Very
I eat from the earth and leave the animals to give birth. No deaders, no fur, no feathers.
Bring a certain level. Yes. Hey, Maccabee, how are you dealing with Rasta? Whole lot of man. I want to Maccabee, man. We are say that we don't just play them things because I just play it sake, you know, we are played for uplift and wake the conscience and the consciousness of the people them. But them can think. Yes. Educate themselves about certain things where them used to shun and where people make them shun. Where them never hear in a classroom. You understand? This is what we call the cutting edge university in a them hours a night, so we want you to stay tuned, you know. Stay tuned. Because we just do it because it's that what we're supposed to do.
You can rely on nobody else. Vegan, we're vegan. Plant-based, we say. Long time Rastafari. Stay at this so.
Vegan, we're vegan. You think a joke. Why you let my brethren, Larry, you know. Yeah, Larry with the health conscious health food store in a Queens. We just open another one in a West McNabb Road, right in a North Lauderdale. Why, Larry, you know, easy, you know. Larry opened up his store in a North Lauderdale right at the time when the COVID had leaked there. A real health food store. Why, you love Larry? The man who carried that years him there Queens, you know, years him there Queens. And now we see him move Ghana. Well, him not move actually. Him open him next store now in a McNabb Road, West McNabb Road, in a Fort Lauderdale there. Yeah, man, give thanks, brethren, give thanks. We love it. We love it. Health is wealth, of course.
And then you will see you start operate at a different frequency. Your mind and body get in tune to the elements and treat them accordingly, compassionately. You don't want to hurt nobody and you want to live consciously. It's I, Maccabee. Try and be the best you can be, cause health is wealth. Vital is vital. You gotta take care of yourself. Health is wealth. Vital is vital. You can't rely on nobody else. Health is wealth. Vital is vital. Try and take care of yourself. Health is wealth. Vital is vital.
No more than ever. No more than ever. Man, we're going to see the importance of eating the proper food and taking care of yourself. Everybody talk about immune system. I never hear so much immune system talk about from a Rasta, from a vegetarian. I never hear so much argument about immune system. But them said this thing attack your immune system. And if your immune system is not proper, well, you're going to fall with it. But there's so much things. You don't know which one of the things them where you have where it a go jolt. It's like the earthquake this morning. The earthquake just come when everybody asleep. Just like hurricane. Hurricane always come the strongest when everybody asleep. You know, I think Gilbert it coming at the day still, but most of them hurricane they come out watch where people place and things when people are asleep. But health is wealth. Vital is vital. Everybody are talking about health now and what you must do to keep healthy. The health food store them a beard, believe you me. The health food store them a beard. Anyway, we give thanks still, we give thanks. So we say we're going to play a tape here. We're going to play a tape about Africa have no friends. We have no friends. And we realize how important these lecture tapes are. That's why we keep them from cassette to CD, from CD now digital, gone in a computer now. We give thanks. We give thanks and we did keep them. And there's so much that we never keep. So much. Cassette, pantapa, cassette, pantapa, cassette. But that which we preserve, we will make the people them hear it who never did hear them from them time there. Those lectures, those famous lectures from the cutting edge will be heard all over the world, whether now or later. And we hope that when the people them listen to them, they will find something of value in it that can carry them through these vicious times that people create. And these times were created by vicious people. Let's see them things that we are going on. We hear about a fire tornado. You ever see a tornado in the shape of fire, Rasta? And them things that we are here about now, you know. Fire burn 1 million odd water land acre. 1 million acre water land, Rasta. May I tell you, in the Amazon, the guys them deliberately are burned down the place. Australia, all over. So health is wealth. Not that you can't stop fire, but you have some little inward things that is necessary and vital and important for really get rid of or move it from near you. And there's certain way you can move it from here. Not everything where you can move. Because something just creep up on you. It just creep up on you and just hit you. You don't even know when it's going to lick you. Just like the earthquake. But as far as possible, as best as you can, just keep yourself the proper way. We try our best to do it. But as we say, we don't know what can creep up. But it's life. And we cherish life. We cherish health. And we want to be wealthy. And we want to be wise. As the saying goes, we want to be healthy, wealthy, and wise. In our Africanness, in our consciousness of understanding ourselves, in our move towards a new idea and a new consciousness that derived from ancient times, and we're bringing it forward now. So we sank over and come forward now. Yeah, now. And start to live that experience that our ancestors knew and tell us that is it going to move away from the craziness that we find ourselves in into a level of, where we call it utopic idea in the consciousness, not in the physical being, in the consciousness. This is the cutting edge. Ask me no question, I tell you no lie. If I tell you the truth, you might start to cry. Why are Africans still in this situation? Still fighting for our liberation? Why is it taking so long? Still we sing the same song. The truth is an offense, not a shame. Time we stop playing their silly game. We must take a final stand. We must find the final solution. Africa has no friend. Africa has no friend. Africa has no friend. Enough shearers and heroes. We are the ones we've been waiting for. By enemies necessary, Malcolm did say. These words are still relevant today. We must take a final stand. We must find the final solution because Africa have no friends. Africa have no friends. Africa have no friends. No more crying, no more pain, no more children, no more blame. We must stand up for our rights. Find the solution. Justice is our might. Enough shearers and heroes. We are the ones we've been waiting for. By enemies necessary, Malcolm did say. These words are still relevant today. Liberation. Move ourselves from this situation. Freedom. Justice. Stop playing their silly game. The truth is an offense, but it's not a shame. Stop playing their silly game. Africa have no friends. Africa have no friends. Africa have no friends. Have no friends.
No. To go to the assignment, I followed their instructions and waited at the hotel. I would love to be here when I can be more fully in depth on this subject, because there's a whole lot of illusions about Africa's relationship with other people in the world. There's a whole lot of illusion about our relationship to the religions in the world. And these belief systems that had its origin in Africa, all of them, and there is no exception, turned on African people. I said there is no exception. And there's one thing you have to get through your mind and keep it. Nothing that ever came from the European mind was meant to do anything but facilitate European domination of the world. And I said there's no exception. Everything that was brought into this continent, everything, every idea, every so-called religion was meant to dominate and to control. The Arabs had no illusions about it. The Europeans had no illusions about it. You were the ones with the illusions. And yet every element that went into the making of every major religion in the world started in Africa. Why is it that you are so naive? You let people redress something that you invented, sell it back to you, and enslave you through it. I'm saying that all organized present religions are male chauvinist murder cults. And I say there is no exception. Why I wanted to be here earlier, I wanted to deal with our relationship with the people of the world and the fact that we created peaceful nations that had no word for jail because no one had ever gone to one. No word for old people's home because no one ever threw them away, grandma and grandpa. No word for orphanages. We did all of this, And over half of human civilization was over before we knew that a European was in the world. Before he wore a shoe or lived in a house that had a window. Now, Africa has always and still is the prize for the whole world. We as a people have always been the world's richest people, culturally rich, mineral rich. We have always been the prize because we have always had and still have something that other people won't, think they can't do without, and don't care to pay for. Because we have always been the prize, we have been under siege for over 3,000 years. Nothing that ever brought into Africa from the outside was meant to do the Africans any good. That means all other religions. Islam was the handmaiden of Arab imperialism. Christianity was the handmaiden of European imperialism. The Hebrew faith was the handmaiden of a concept called the chosen people. Now, if God is kind and God is merciful and God has no stepchildren, he won't choose one over the other. And to say he chose some people, you're making him a bigot. And to say that he endorsed enslavement of one people over the other, you're making him an accessory to murder. The Arabs used Islam to rationalize their slavery and their imperialism. The Europeans used Christianity to rationalize their slavery and imperialism. Who are you kidding about friends in the world? Damn it, if you want a friend, look in the mirror. There's 1 billion African people on the face of this earth. Why are you buying third-rate junk from third-rate people thinking you can't make it? Why don't you at least make a safety pin to hold your child's diaper together? Teach. Who has programmed your mind into thinking you can't make a car? The first man that made a car, they had never seen one previously. The Japanese bought cars, bought locomotives, broke them down and studied them, and had a Japanese technician produce each piece, put it together, and had a much better train than the one they copied from. All knowledge in the world belongs to everybody in the world.
Yes.
Who has programmed our mind in assuming that we cannot run a nation and run it well? The main thing imperialism did, slavery and imperialism, they removed African people from the respectful commentary of history. And they tell them something they are still telling them, and all of the organized religions are guilty of this. I favor none of it because Africa didn't need any of it. I'm saying that African belief systems, properly understood, is 10 times better than Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. And better for the Africans. Now you might have some romance with one of these religions. I have no romance with any of them. I have a romance with reality and truth. And the chips can fall where they may after I tell it. As for friends, you have had no friends. When they discovered you, they began to prey on you. Now let's look at our relationship with Western Asia, mistakenly called the Middle East. For 3,000 years, our greatest enemies came from Western Asia. They were trying to avenge the fact that they were once African colonies. You read a book called When Egypt Ruled the East, and you get some of the basic information on this. Now, the first visitors to Africa came in the 1700s BC.
It's an African court. Those who want to hear this court, please come in and sit down. Calling you African people, representing the people.
Mutabaruka. Look at our relationship relationship with Western Asia, mistakenly called the Middle East. For 3,000 years, our greatest enemies came from Western Asia. They were trying to avenge the fact that they were once African colonies. You read a book called When Egypt Ruled the East, and you get some of the basic information on this. Now, the first visitors to Africa came in the 1700s BC. These were the people who would later be called Hebrews. Now, black people are ticklish on this because black people think that everything in the Bible is true. I question the intelligence of anyone who thinks everything in the Bible is true or supposed to be true. It's allegory, stories told to illustrate a point at a time when there were very few people reading books. And most of what went into the making of the Bible was copied from Egyptian texts. Now, if you want to get so dewy-eyed over the Bible, which is a carbon copy of a carbon copy, why don't you go back and read the original Egyptian text? Then you see where all these stories started from. You see where the story of the Exodus started from. Now, you get so dewy-eyed, you actually think there was an Exodus. These people walked into Africa. Why couldn't they walk out? Why did they have to go by sea? Why did the sea have to part? If you read Egyptian literature, you will discover that the whole story of somebody parting the sea started with about 3,000 years before the Hebrew entrance. I should not use the word Hebrew entrance, but the entrance from Western Asia. Now let's get one thing straight, because black people are confused about all religions. Now, I'm not against any religion. I'm a very spiritual human being. I just don't need a preacher to preach no 10 Commandments to me when he's a backslider going with some other man's wife. I'm intelligent enough to pick from the 10 Commandments. We were not commandments anyway, but they were omissions of purity at the great school at Luxor, the great African training school. All right, now, let's get into this Western Asia. I'm saying that the people who came from Western Asia escaping famine did not have any Hebrew faith when they came into Africa. And there's no record of a Hebrew faith before theirs. Why is it that when they left Africa in the so-called Exodus, they had all three? African culture, an African religion, and an African language. Now look at the origin of the so-called people you now refer to as Jews. And you're mistaken using that reference because the word Jew is of European origin. And the people in Europe who call themselves by their name have no relationship to the biblical people of the Hebrew faith. And I'm saying that the people we now call Jews entered world history with their visit to Africa. And when Africa was invaded, 1675 BC, instead of joining the Africans who had been their beneficiary and saved them from starvation, they joined the enemies of Africa. No one has ever returned any favors to us. As a people, we have always been hospitable to strangers, mostly the wrong strangers. And what we have to understand now, in the period of superior brainwashing, is there is no European answer for African problems. Either Africans find a solution to African problems or there is no solution, and if you don't find a solution soon, you go back into slavery. We have to stop all of this nonsense about who belongs to what religion when all of them were imposed on us in the first place. We stop all this fight between Muslims and Christians when neither one of the religions are doing them any good or moving them toward independence. All of them are handmaids of conquerors. All of them are religions of conquerors. We were naive when we accepted their interpretation of something that we had all along. I'm saying we need to take a good look at ourselves. I'm not talking about burning churches. I'm not talking about getting rid of religions. Understand me well. I am saying that every single thing that touches your life, religious, socially, and politically, must be an instrument of your liberation, or you must throw it into the ash can of history. Develop a liberation Islam. Yes. And if you develop a liberation Islam, you'd have to turn on the supreme slave traders who were in the slave trade 1,000 years before the Europeans, the Arabs. Yes. And most brothers who think they're Muslims are merely Arabists. Forerunners, vanguards of Arab propaganda. The Arabs are not above joining the Jews against black people. In America, they're already doing it in Detroit. In America, they're already doing it in real estate. You got some dewy-eyed thing that you got a friend. I still ask you to look at that mirror. And if nothing staring back at you is friendly, then you've got no friend. So this is why you start friends. All right. I'm saying something which you need to reconsider. I'm saying that everything that came into Africa, every people that came into Africa, did not come to do Africa any good. Everyone and every religion and every people who came into Africa declared war on African cultures. They began the bastardization of African people, created confused mulatto who didn't know whether he'd be loyal to his mother's people or his father's people. That confusion is still here. The fascination for the color of the conqueror and the fascination to go to bed with the conqueror. Now that's raw and mean, but it's true. Now, some time ago, a North African leader, Gaddafi, was sending some Libyans to study in Europe. And he told them what any good nationalist would tell students going to study: I'm not sending you to Europe to find a wife. I'm sending you to Europe to gain the technology to come back and make Libya a strong nation, a strong Islamic nation, and a strong Arab nation. And you cannot achieve any of this between the legs of a European woman. When is somebody going to get strong enough to tell Africans going to school, you're going to come back home and pair up with a sister, but if you want to pair up over there, stay over there. Now, the one thing we have to look at, and I'm sorry, I'm going to have to conclude on this because I've left out a body of information. At the university, I teach an entire course, semester course, on Africa's relationship to other people. And I devote several semesters to Africa before Europe, the consequences of the coming of the Greeks, who stole a lot that they think is their culture, stole a lot that you think is Greek philosophy. We've been the victims of propaganda. And yet, if you read the Journal of African Civilization, other works, we have lived in Europe, we've lived in Asia, we've lived in the Americas. The African people have already proved that they can get along with different people, amalgamate their culture with different people without one hint of a war between us. People who come into Africa immediately declare war on African culture, standards of beauty, standards of conduct, and change the African concept of theirs so they can rule through him. This was true of the Greeks, who began the bastardization, again, the European bastardization of Africa. The Western Asians had begun it 3,000 years before that. The Romans, a bunch of well-dressed thugs who could write well but couldn't think, who borrowed practically everything. They laughed at the Africans' concept of Christianity. The African was practicing and not giving it a name. This is why you don't know nothing about the African origins of Christianity. This is why a whole lot of people will not read Ben Yarkinen's The African Origins of the Major Western Religions, Africa, Mother of Western Civilization, a Black Man of the Nile. Because he's telling it like it is, but you also will not read white radicals who identified Africa as the origin of the great religions of the world, especially Alvin Boyd Kuhn in his work, Who is This King of Glory? In Shadow of the 3rd Century. We have dealt with John Jackson, another radical black historian, with man, God, and civilization. We let some of our great scholars die in hunger, die wanting for friendship. Now, having devoted my greater portion of my life to scholarship and teaching and digging up information on African people and trying to make African people face reality, I have often said, a point that I wish you to consider, I didn't have to do it. I chose to do it. And if I had to do it over again, I would do it better. But I have a lot of talent other than the talent to teach and to research. I've never met a rich man who had a better mind than me. So if I wanted to succeed as a rich man, I could have done that. I never met a crook who wasn't a fool. I could have been a good crook if I chose to be a crook. I chose to be a teacher of African history. I chose to look in the Bible, and where I couldn't find my people, I started looking for them in the world, and I didn't stop until I found them. And I know why they were left out of the Bible. I know why all the angels are white. You mean to tell me God is merciful, God is kind, and not one little brown or black angel sneaked into heaven? I ain't buying that. Now the Bible that you get so dewy-eyed over is one of the greatest pieces of propaganda ever written. If you want to read the Bible, why don't you read the Bible one day and read Mein Kampf the next day and see the comparison? That's hard on your mind. Because you think if you don't have Christianity, Islam, or Judaism, you don't have to have spirituality. I've got more spirituality after I put all of them down. And I've got more religion after I put all of them down. All right, now let me conclude something that has no conclusion. We have to look at the impact of Europeans on Africa. All impacts have been negative. The Romans laughed at the early African Christians. Finally, for political reasons, they stopped killing Christians and became Christians. I'm saying the Europeans became Christians for political reasons, as the Arabs became Muslim for political reasons, and as the so-called Jews became Hebrews for political reasons. People use organizations for political reasons, and what we get so dewy-eyed, in fact, we're dealing with the truth. If you look at indigenous African religion, belief systems, if you look at the idea when Africans had no churches of any consequence, because these fools came here and said, this is the house of God, and the African looked at that church and said, if God who made the wind, the spring, made the ocean roar, and you're going to tell me he can fit into a little thing you call a church? That is no house of God. So some Africans had the common sense enough to move away from it, and some had the common sense to burn it down. I'm saying that you are closer to God when the further way you get away from organized religions that are all handmaidens of conquest. The Roman Empire developed during the early period of Christianity. Remember, the Roman Empire started in Africa. It rose in Africa. It fell in Africa. A lot of people need to stop reading some religious books and read some straight history without fable, without supposition, without myth. Read straight history. Read the Mediterranean world in ancient times. She's a racist bigot, but her chronology is good. And there's a good history of the European trying to move out of Europe into the Mediterranean to find something to eat, to put on that gosh darn awful European food. He has solved his problem at the expense of other people. The slave trade liberated Europe from the depressed economy they had created with the so-called Crusades and through the famines and the plagues. Europe always solves its problems by preying on people outside of Europe. They are in a position right now that they have betrayed true socialism, which was not of European origin in the first place. And some people are confused between Karl Marx and Groucho Marx. I think a lot of people are Groucho Marxism instead of Karl Marxism. They're funny people. And if you think that that system started in Europe, no system as humane as socialism could have started among a bunch of icebox people who prey on their brothers for their breakfast. Read Kwame Colson's work, The History of the Modern World, especially the early chapters. Now, the evidence of Africans in the New World, the evidence of 1,000 years of civilization before slavery, all of this I'm not discussing because there is no time. But when the Romans disgraced themselves in the mismanagement of Christianity, they created a vacuum. Islam moved into that vacuum. The Africans thought that Islam would get the Romans off of their back. They were right. Islam got the Romans off of their back, and the Arabs jumped on their back, and they're still there. Using Islam to justify it. Now, the African military man, because we are the greatest fighting machine in the face of the earth, if we ever discovered this, people are going to start running. Under proper leadership, proper inspiration, properly equipped, the black man is the greatest human fighting machine God ever created. If indeed God created it. I think the gods of Africa created it. Once you lose track of your heritage, you lose track of your liberty in this world. The Europeans doing the slave trade not only read the African out of history, they colonized history, they colonized information about history. They colonized image. They colonized the image of God. Who told you Christ was white? He was born in that part of the world predominantly occupied by non-European people. So you should not get into the argument about whether he's white. All you have to say, was he a Greek? No. Was he a Roman? No. But these were the only people partially white in the area at the time. If he wasn't a Greek, he wasn't a Roman, he was one of those other people. You don't have to argue about the shades of color. So far as you're concerned, once you establish he was not a woman, he was not a Greek, your conversation is over. Now, if somebody else want to argue about his shade, well, that's their problem. Then if you got a problem with color, then you got a problem with your mother and your father. You have insulted your mother and your father if you don't like what they gave you. I wear mine like a badge of honor. I dig it. I wear it well.
All right. Love it.
I'm saying in closing, and I am closing, that what you have to do is take a holistic look. Not only at your position in the world, but your potential in the world. You have to learn how to convert everything into an instrument of liberation or leave it alone. You have to realize there was no Greek fraternities and sororities until they were introduced to secret African societies. People get all dewy-eyed over something that was imposed on them in order to control them without understanding that. That's another imperial effort. So it bothers me, and although I have good personal friends who are Muslim, that not a single Muslim scholar have dealt with that 1,000 years of African independence before slavery and how the Arabs from the north systematically destroyed these nations. It did not occur. 1591, from Morocco, an army was launched against these great independent nations in inner West Africa. These were great states. And because of poor communication between African and African, there was enough armies in these states to march down to the coast and to drive every slave trader into the sea. But the communication between African and African was so poor. Even today, the East Africa is not too clear about what's happening in West Africa. And nobody knows what's happening in North Africa because the conspiracy to hold on to Africa is happening in South Africa and in North Africa. So the whites in North and South Africa willing to play a part, and the pseudo-whites in North Africa willing to play a part. In all this world, you have no friends. But if there are a billion of you on the face of this earth, scattered all over the world, what do you need with a friend other than yourself? Why can't you turn inward on yourself and say, I will wear no clothes I don't produce. Start with your underwear. I wear no shoes that's not made by a brother.
Yes, this is the cutting edge. You listen to John Henry Clarke, Africa has no friends. We're going to come forward with it and wrap up.
I will wear no clothes I don't produce. Start with your underwear. I wear no shoes that's not made by a brother. You're creating a shoe factory, employment at once. Start buying aeroplanes, break them down and study them, later on make aeroplanes. What this whole thing is about is the restoration of confidence. It has been the role of these handmaidens of colonialism to destroy your confidence in yourself. You don't believe that you can look like a god. You don't believe a black father in your home is to some extent a god. That doesn't make the black woman less than a goddess. Because we produced the first human society that recognized and respected the female god. We produced the first human society that said you can't be a king unless you got a queen. You can't be a god unless you got a goddess. So you can see all of these social ills that people are defending now, none of it started in our countries. I defy anyone alive, and those who want to come alive, come back and prove me, I invite them too, to show me one single case of sexual deviance or maladjustment any place on the African continent for the coming of foreigners. I defy you to show me one case of teenage pregnancy, one case of ill treatment of women. We got confused with someone else's ideas, someone else's concept and definition of us. What we have to understand is that faith has not spared us for an idle reason. A whole lot of people who've been hit less than us are extinct. What is there in us that made us strong enough to take this heavy blow? 500 years of slavery, one way or the other. Slavery, neo-colonialism. What made us strong enough to survive? What is faith saved us to do? And inasmuch as we gave the world its first humanity, faith has saved us to give the world its last humanity. What we have to do is to believe it, to believe that we are worthy of it, and to believe that we are capable of it. What black studies should be about, what black religion should be about, is the restoration of the confidence. And the restoration of the confidence is we must rule the state again. There is not an imitation nation, not an independent nation in Africa or the Caribbean islands. They're all imitation European states. And what we have to understand is that the nation state is stagnant. The African did not live in a nation state, he lived in a territorial state. The African learned something very basic. Cultures have to be fertilized by cultures. People have to be fertilized by the interaction between cultures and cultures. This insecure European tightened his borders. You know, you got a passport to come here? The word passport is not in any African language. The things he invented to restrict himself, he imposed on other people. Once we gain confidence in ourselves, and once we look at that person staring back at us from that mirror and like what we see, and don't move from that mirror until you like what you see. Then, in coordination with other African people throughout the world, we will give the world a new lease on life. We will turn to all of our people and not one part of them, because we came from a matrilineal society that respected women to the point the lineage came down to the female side. We must answer the call of the great African-American poet, Margaret Walker, who said, "Let the dirges end, let a new peace begin. Let us write a new covenant for the freedom of ourselves in the world." African men throughout the world need to step forward and answer Sister Margaret and say, "Sister Margaret, we have heard your call, and because we have never been a society that excluded women, with our women at our side, we are ready to pick up the challenge. We are ready to start a revolution that will change the world. We won't get ready tomorrow because tomorrow's things are left to tomorrow. We will start our revolution right now, and we will start it with ourselves." Thank you.
Walking home, a youth gets killed. Neighbors free to shoot at will. Sad to see the old slave mill is grinding slow but grinding still. 9 to 5, you know the drill. Weekends are a short-lived thrill. Sad to see the old slave mill is grinding slow but grinding still. Cup run it over till it spill. Take until they've had their fill. Hurts to see the old slave mill is grinding slow but grinding still. Some of us think we're too big because the system gives us jobs, even though it's just a low-paying gig. Some of us will boast and brag, and those of us who think we're small just because we don't have much. It's really not the case at all. There's riches that the flesh can't touch. What men want and what they will, working for a dollar bill. Sad to see the old slave mill is grinding slow but grinding still. Walking home, a youth gets killed. Police free to shoot at will. Sad to see the old slave mill is grinding slow but grinding still. 9 to 5, you know the drill. Weekends are a short-lived thrill. Sad to see the old slave mill is grinding slow but grinding still. Cover on it over till it spill. Take until they've had their fill. Sure hurts to see the old slave mill grinding slow but grinding still.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Blessed, man.
Rastafari, you like King Celestia. Blessed love, my brother.
Blessed Rastafari.
At the first, I call for the program, you know, and I know say me I listen to RFM from the first time RFM started, the first year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man.
So how come you have to call first? You just get a phone?
Well, try enough time, you know. Try a lot of time and can't get through. Yeah, man, try a lot of time and can't get through. When we really call about still, you know, is that me here, Talia, the daughter there, we play in the night, they play a hard about the Kentucky chicken where them find, the finding where them finding at China. Where them feed the people them pan the raw meat and the Kentucky people them apologize to the China. You know hear about it?
No, I'm not hear about it.
Yeah, she played one night. And from one day, I tell the people, them say, I know the chicken, the pies in there, you know.
You know the chicken, which pies in there?
For the COVID.
So the chicken them don't have it too?
Yeah, because you know.
All the chicken them don't get it?
No, it's activated, you know, just like how when you give the chicken them the pill and them go. So when germs affect the people them who eat it, it activated at them.
So everywhere in the world where people have it, a chicken give them?
Yeah. And the meat where them I eat. And the meat where them I eat.
No, may I ask you, if everywhere we're in the world where people have COVID, if it's chicken, give them?
If it's the chicken,
give them.
Especially the chicken, the meat. The meat.
So you move from chicken now to meat?
No, it's not moved from, it's complete togetherness.
No, you look why you just say the chicken them, give them. No, you say it's meat.
Yeah.
So it's meat I give the people them the COVID.
The meat, the worm in the meat.
So and how long now them have it? How long now the chicken, the meat them have the COVID?
Years them, it's a one man. But
man I eat meat from the beginning of time, you know. So how them just get the COVID?
Because them release the chemical we are activated now the old people and the aged people them because of the pension scheme. Them want to get rid of a certain amount of money where they have to pay the old people them.
Okay.
It is a ritual where I come from the Pope Rome.
So where you get them information from?
I'm a preacher in MUTA.
No, where you get the information from? I ask who you is. I ask where you get the information from?
The spiritual realms.
Okay.
From the Almighty.
All right, sir. So the spiritual realms tell you how to stop it. They have to stop it.
Man. Yeah, man. Then physically you have to stop it by stop doing the things where attract this worm to activate in you.
All right, sir.
Yeah, you seen? Yeah, you ever see a spirit yet, Muta? May I ask you one question?
No, I never see spirit yet.
Well, maybe all spirit within the element.
Oh, you see my one?
Yeah, man.
Which part?
Marcus Garvey, King Celestia.
Which part you see my spirit?
The High Spirit?
Yeah.
Or you mean if you never see the High Spirit?
No, I ask you which part you see it. You say all spirit. So I ask you which part you see my spirit.
Upper Rona Raytown.
Okay.
Only with the light store.
That's my spirit. You say, okay. All right. All right, sir.
Yeah. One thing more, may I ask you, is the people have to come to them consciousness of Emperor Selassie as the foundation of African unity, or else
All of them are going with, because most of the people them are praise Jesus and God. And them in the African business and the African fraternity, and them are hold it back.
Okay.
If them not see his imperial majesty, them are ignorant just like the slave master.
All right, sir.
Yes, man. I preach to love to the world of truth, man.
Yeah, give thanks.
Give thanks to that side.
Yeah.
Without confidence, you're twice defeated in the race of life. But with confidence, you have won before you have even started.
There is no legitimate white Africa. And so somebody says black Africa, ask them, what other kind of Africa legitimately is there?
Without
you never say white Europe.
Without confidence. Without
and
confidence.
you never say wet rain.
You're
what other kind of rain is there other than wet rain?
Without confidence, you're twice defeated in the race of life. But with confidence, you have won before you have even started. Let me take you into the halls of Timbuktu, when the teachers were you and the scholars were you. We mapped out the stars, knew when the comets flew, traveling the 7 seas on a rendezvous. Way before Marco Polo and his crew even knew the sky made the sea blue. Before they found out the world was not flat, we were building pyramids and practicing Mahat, using compasses and sketching out maps, walking valleys and climbing snow caps. When white guys were in caves taking naps, we were throwing dice, we were playing craps, reciting poetry and spitting out raps with a graceful bow as the audience claps. Back in the days when we praise Amen Ra, back in the days when we raised by the law, showing respect to our ma and our pa, saying good morning to elders we saw. Before Genghis Khan was taking lands, before Farrakhan was preaching Islam, As-salam, you alaykum, we were saying peace unto you, brother man. So why enslave my people and take my lands? Take my treasures, put them in Buckingham, in Vatican and Smithsonian. Told me I had no civilization when I is the king of this creation. We were going to space before they went to the moon. Living in castles with 1,000 rooms. By the river Nile waiting for a monsoon. The banks will overflow and the flowers will bloom. Harvest the crops April, May, June. Bury our pharaohs in golden tombs, and if you open this tomb, your life will end soon, like a curse from King Tut or Hatshepsut. So, come follow me back into the past, into the pyramids where spells are cast, where the pharaoh's treasures are great and vast, hieroglyphics on the walls forever last. I went and took up a mask. Asked master, what's my task? Hold a meditation and I hold my fast, and I hope one day to find my path. Conquer my desires, control my wrath. Jump in the Nile, take a spiritual bath. Karma master has the eyes of the heart. See if I'm wise or just plain smart. I must be humble to develop my art. From the book of the dead, I will never depart. Know all the ways from the end to the start. Read my books, watch people's looks. Penny their motives, they could be crooks. Lurking around on the low down, but I know they're coming cause I hear the drum sound from deep in the jungle where the tigers live, where yin and yang meet and we live positive, where yin and yang meet and we live positive, where yin and yang meet and we live up. So without confidence, you're twice defeated in the race of life.
Yeah?
Yeah, Muta.
Yeah, man, blessed.
Oh, go on.
There.
I want me here say I'm going with Rona Raytown.
Who are going with Rona Raytown?
I mean, I hear your spirit Rona Raytown, the Trong.
My spirit, everywhere it look like, everybody at me say them feel my spirit.
We are Westmoreland, and I wonder if me there around there too. Your man see your spirit when I return, man.
The man tell me, what wrong him? A man tell me say him feel my spirit. What kind of go on? A man tell me say him feel my spirit, man.
It's a good hour, really they good up.
Well, that may I say.
Especially say from the first program I refer him and I allow him can't get on yet a while ago.
And at the first him call. He must just get a phone.
But he has caught him can't get on.
Somebody have some talk. Talk, Bridget, I tell you.
Anyway,
so what
I don't request tonight, but I beg you for a lucky do there.
Lucky do
the way it is, if you could have find out where it is, the family.
All right.
Yeah,
so,
man. That's all I have to say tonight, yeah.
Yeah, man, give thanks.
Yeah, Muta.
Yeah, blessed.
Give thanks, man. Long time I shout you, but I listen to you all the time, man.
All right, give thanks.
David and Manchester, man.
Oh, yeah?
Yes, man, I just shout you, man. But
so where do up them over there, man?
I listen to you right through time, man.
Oh, yeah?
Yes, man, I hear from I'm a station, man. I listen to you right through time, but sometimes I'm afraid to call you.
Why?
Because like sometimes, I just don't know, man. Just like, man, because I choose a gun and celebrate my Earth Strong, you know?
Oh, yeah? Oh.
Yeah, man, I Gary G celebrate the same day for Earth Strong.
How young is you now?
69 years old.
Okay.
Charles Morgan. I'm a friend them from about Shudley, man. The hard family and so them tuning to you all the time, too, man. But them, put them no one call.
Them no one call me?
Them just like to this man that tell me to see you look good. And I for them call me since night, I understand.
So why them no one call me?
You know, so sometimes I just, but we just like to listen to you, sir. Just give me time, man. I'm bless up the staff for you, sir.
Yeah.
Enough respect. Bless up my good friend Shane Clarke to you.
Yeah, Shane a good friend?
Yes, man, you know me all right.
Oh, yeah, them become good friend.
Yeah, me call you all the time. You forgot to me call you all the time.
Where you come all the time?
IRFM.
Me never say long IRFM, mate.
MUTA, one time when we have something for the last time with Marcus Garvey. And I said, the bus park up yonder. And you said, let me come down with it. You say, yeah, you know, the bus not have no door.
The bus not have no door.
After you say, man, the bus not have no door. Let me say, yes, sir. And I come around, you are just buy things and move around sometime. No, sometime in Amber One, man. Every day on the police station, man.
Okay.
Because I was in earthquake pass yesterday, man. I made this the news yesterday.
Where earthquake pass in the police station, too?
They interviewed me and put me on because I'm in there, yeah.
Where they put you on the station through the earthquake?
No, them call it this, they call and tell them what happened in the district and so on, so, you know.
Oh, about the earthquake?
Yes, sir.
So what did happen in your district?
Me just rise on this stove a cook, and me just feel you start to shake up, and you start everything I do. And me just want to put it on my hand. I just drop out same time when me frightened, man.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir, me frightened. Honestly, man, I'm 7:30 yesterday morning.
So how you mean put it on drop out of your hand? I don't understand that.
Mr. Muta. Like
you're frightened, man.
Say what, sir?
I know the earthquake shake out your hand. I put you're frightened.
Yes, that's what I mean. So frightened, so I never expect it. And you just shake up.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right, sir.
I'm glad to get you, man. So respect here, sir.
Yeah.
I want you to play one of your record. One of your singles. I want you to play for Charles Martin and give it to me here, sir.
Play for who?
Play one of your records for me, sir.
Let me not play one already, man.
But me want you want for me, sir. But I was strong, so you can't get that for you, sir, because a long time.
All right, sir.
I listen every night, and I just say, I call me some mood, I go say, wow.
Yeah, man, you thanks, man.
Take it away for you, brother. Take it away, Mr. Mutabaruka.
All right, sir. What was the Shane? Yeah?
Yeah, Father, blessed.
Blessed man.
Yeah, man, I'm gonna follow you a while now. So I get into the topic when we have pertinent here now, but a long time I'm gonna have them by a whole video still, so. You hear me?
Yeah, which topic?
Yeah, I look back one interview where you do it, Ian, man.
Ian Bourne.
Yeah. I have it by me, I put it out. I have it by me, I put it out, for when we discuss more and call you pertinent to it.
Okay.
Yeah, I said, the man who heard 2,000 years ago named Jesus Christ. Rastafari accept this man. That's how you said on the interview.
Me hear you?
Yeah, you hear me?
Yeah, you said the man who what?
The man who named Jesus Christ.
Yes.
From Nazareth to what? This 2,000 years ago.
Yeah.
Rastafari accept this man.
Haile Selassie, yeah.
Yeah, that. No, not Haile Selassie. Oh, you will not reach Haile Selassie yet.
Which Rastafari you talk? Then Haile Selassie Rastafari?
Yeah, Haile Selassie Rastafari. But the I said on the interview say
Haile Selassie accept him.
Hold on. Because I hear this youth, I hear this pin, you see? So I follow you long time before I fully understand what I want. You hear me?
Yeah, man, I hear you, man.
So I say, for the interview, I have Barry I put right now.
How much time you have to repeat that, man?
Alright. I said, Rastafari accept Jesus Christ, the man from Nazareth, who were 2,000 years ago. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I want me hear you talk pertaining to Jesus Christ at this hour now. It's not that you're saying for the interview now.
Yeah, no. No, what mean not that me I say? I say accept Jesus Christ. What you say?
MUTA, a long time I listen here. I have first time caller.
Virgin, how much time you have to say the same thing, Rasta?
So me I say, you say for the interview.
Yeah.
Say, Rastafari accept this man from Nazareth.
You don't say that already, Virgin. We say yes. Me say that. Me say it.
Alright, but when me hear you say no, it's not you say, it's not that what you say on the interview. A different thing because me hear you say on the radio station couple times say there was no Jesus Christ.
Me not accept Jesus Christ. No, listen, wait there, hold on there.
Hold on.
If you tell me hold on, then me go lock you off, you know.
You go lock me off.
Because you was listening to what I say.
I listen.
Alright. You see the man where them said name Jesus Christ, there's no man in our history the name Jesus Christ. But you see when people say Jesus Christ, listen to me. You see when people say Jesus Christ, them are refer to a man where them say name Jesus Christos in a Greek, that's what them call him in a Hebrew, and Yahshua in a Hebrew. You're not listening to
me. All I want to explain to you.
Me not accept no man with name Jesus Christ. Me not believe in Jesus Christ.
But that is what you say. But what's in the MUTA, that is what they say on the interview. When
but me say still, but me still I say.
The little pastor man was sitting right there, so, and he and boy on the right there, so, and you there in the mid. You know what I'm saying? How is it?
What you say? Me not understand what you say now.
The little pastor man there in the mid right there, so.
Yeah.
Right there, so, and you sitting on in the middle. No type of your head, you lock them letter.
Yeah.
And you say Rastafari accept this man from Nazareth 2,000 years ago who on this earth. And that is not what me hear you are dealing
say no.
Because me I follow you a long time.
Alright, women say no.
Well, you say no, that is the real thing where you are say at this present moment but Jesus. But what you say on the interview at that time is not that what you are saying now.
Alright, how much so what that mean? So what that mean to you?
So,
if me did say it then, I'm not say it now. What that mean?
Muta, nothing me learn from you, you know.
No.
Nothing me learn from you, no.
Listen to me. If me did say it 20 years ago, I mean I say it now. What that mean?
Okay. Me like what you saw now.
No, me ask you. If me did say it yesterday, and today me come and see something else, what that mean?
Oh, that means you find the real vibes and the real...
Me no find...
You find
what?
the conducive. What you know? You find
but
the
me was Rasta the whole of my life,
about.
brethren. Me was Rasta the whole of my life, you know.
Yeah,
me used to go to church, you know.
I am going to say, no. Muta,
you know what I mean? Used to go to church.
Vibes, you know. Muta, I don't bash up on the vibes, no. But what I'm
no, but I tell you, say me used to go to church.
When you clear that and clarify that, yeah, man.
Yeah, me not clarify, say. What? Yeah, listen to me, I clarify. Me I clarify, say one time me used to eat pork. I mean, I love it.
Yeah.
And then me stop me on pork.
By reading, by listening to you, me learn a lot about you. Me learn that, man.
But come like, you know why you hear me and say?
Yeah, I listen to it.
Me say, one time me used to yam pork. And me stop yam pork. Me used to eat fish. And me used to stop yam fish. Me used to eat cheese and egg. And me stop yam it. Me not eat it no more. So there's certain things that you evolve and you grow. And you grow out and you grow in.
So we go and understand the things about life. And
so you understand it now.
The real vibes them really know so they are still you admit to the thing them when me I bring towards the eye. Because I mean the topics, you know, but me choose the most vital one I chose.
Yeah, the most vital one is that when me in a 12 tribe, me talk about Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Me come out of 12 tribe and me not deal with Jesus Christ anymore.
But the main objective still that pertaining to that topic, yeah. Me like because many ones, you know, would have go around the vibes and the way I bring it.
Go around which vibes? But me not go around the vibes.
You don't go around it. You don't go around it.
No, me not go around it for. I'm alive.
Muta, you know what I'm saying? Me go tell you one thing pertaining to Aqua. I grew up, you know. You see, me wake up as a little youth. Me never know what yet, but me happy as how African thing, but the way that a little youth, I wake up in the house at about 9 to 7, 8 year old. And they come like I man get scared because...
You know, can't work with what I say, you know. Trust me, can't cuss about them with the pan radio. I feel like that. All right. So, this brethren, you know, I talked to him about something. Him say, him hear me, I don't know that him hear me say still, but I got exactly what I say. Him hear me talk to Ian Bowen them. Years ago, Ian Bowen agrees with me, and him say, me talk about Christ. Christ. I know Jesus Christ in me, I say, no, Christ. Anyway, the point is that when I did just start Side Rasta, in a 12 tribe, I have an understanding of Jesus Christ, or Jesus Christ. I can't tell you all time Rasta man say. Going through life, going through knowledge, going through understanding of things, we realize we have to go let go the name the Jesus Christ. So we let it go. Because we evolve. We evolve in our knowledge, we evolve in our experience, and our experience carry we to this stage. Because we know, say, knowledge is an evolutionary process. Life is an evolutionary process. And you develop or you stop within certain consciousness. And you pick up things on the way and you move. So my life story show me that me don't need for worship praise Jesus Christ. I praise, and me no need for worship no man. And when me say Haile Selassie to me is that gateway, that signpost to my evolution, to my consciousness. So it don't matter to me what Haile Selassie worship or praise. What I see in Haile Selassie is what I develop from my own experience and own understanding. So I don't say Haile Selassie through Bible. And I don't say Haile Selassie through a man that tell me say my God. I say Haile Selassie through my experience coming through Rastafari. So I don't worship Haile Selassie. I don't know if that can clarify nothing, but just a show a man say, me no worship. Me praise, but me no worship. And me will forever hail Haile Selassie. Me will hail Haile Selassie continuously because it's Haile Selassie I bring to this level as now, to this consciousness, to this understanding of which part I there. So I don't need to go bad out about no Jesus Christ. Because I come understand and know the origin of the terminology Jesus Christ and the origin of the concept of Jesus Christ. And you hear the man just say, John Henry Clarke say, why you go praise something that is the half-shoot of where you was before that half-shoot come? You are an ancient being. Where them are show we know no angel that where them develop through colonialism and slavery. And when I talk about colonial and slavery and chattel slavery in them time, we are talking about 2,000 years ago when the Romans and the Greeks enter Africa. I hear the man talk about it. So we are go forward to the root of the thing. We're not the branch, we go to the root of the thing. And the root of the thing to I is not Jesus. And I know what a man come to light about Haile Selassie worship Jesus and Haile Selassie praise Jesus. I don't care what Haile Selassie worship or praise. It's not where Haile Selassie believe in or why I turn Rasta. When I did a site Rastafari originally, I never know about Haile Selassie wife. I never know about his mother or her father. I come evolve in that and come read history and come read and know that where I did that see in Haile Selassie, I don't know if Haile Selassie see it in himself, but it no matter to I create a pathway if it find myself, it just so. So I will continually say Rastafari, I will continually heal Haile Selassie, it's just so. This is the coated air on my FM. So what the bridging I watch. Yeah. With the higher watch over there, so we gon' quit. Come again, come out of that music. Stop the music, you know, Mutabaruka. I could start this thing here properly. So we could stop the music here, talk properly. All right. What we are saying is that whether you to watch with Mutabaruka just come out of bush and just recognize himself, there's certain things that Mutabaruka evolve out of that. You understand? Where a man there is where a man there. You have some man there, so make him stay there, so because I know say him reach over the next sign of the road too. When time I just go bush and hear Rastaman and say certain thing, I couldn't accept it. I couldn't accept it. Because how me did come up in a Rastafari and that me did hear. And that me did a search. But when me look and see the man them, can't read, can't write, and just a live in a experience, me come shoot out the self and say, look here, but at this me did a sight, at this me did I look for. And I know book thing me did I look for out in the Bible. And then we go learn about Africa and we go to Africa. We learn about Ethiopia and we go to Ethiopia. We learn about Mount Zion and we go to Mount Zion. We learn about all of them things there and we go to these places over the years and come recognize something that more time It baffles your mind. So right now with the yasso, and when I tell a man to follow me over there, so we just say, you can't just take it stage by stage, and where you there is where you're there. Where me there is where me there. But me no say, the only God, where me accept is the one where me create for myself. Because every God is man created. If there was no man, there wouldn't be any concept of God. All you hear about Egyptian mythology, Christianity, Islam, Muslim, all of them things there, a man designed them things there. All you hear about Bible, a man write that. Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, all of them, a man write that. Them man there, I try find them way out of certain situation, and them write down these things. Just like how we write poetry, a man write songs. I just saw it go. And we're not supernatural being. Years we have said that. We're not supernatural being. But we never start out that way. It's climb the mountain. It's climb the ladder. And we now broke down the ladder. But we climb the ladder, we go over the bridge. And we follow the stop sign, we follow the light, we follow the signal, and that's how we reach. And we still say, Emperor Haile Selassie, that way I say. You have many ways to reach it, you know. So many leaves, one tree. So many rivers, one sea. I just that way I say.
Hello?
No, listen.
Hey, good night, Muta.
Yes?
First time caller. Yeah, you
okay. Yeah.
Yeah, man, first time caller.
Your first time caller, I'm not getting at the night job.
Yeah, but I know one of the dopest story one them do.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, so me that listen, you know what it is, that program me there I listen with you like 5 years, I think it's 4 years ago with the guy that I was call you and I tell you the story them. I wanted to tell about and him said the man was the pastor say the fool saying is that there is no God.
Oh yeah, I'm just saying the last part where the pastor said there is no God.
So I listen to a program a while ago and I hear him tell you another story and I said it's like 5 years ago.
Last week.
4 years ago, yeah. The one I made a little earlier is 4 years ago, 2015. The 10th.
Which one did I tell you? Which next story did I talk about?
Yeah, me that say one where him say in the church, like I tell you something about when the preacher talk and everybody get up and the last one him say anybody will ever see him cock and all of the altar boys them get up.
Anybody will ever see him what?
If anybody ever see him cock and all of the altar boys them get up. So I don't want you probably not yeah, you probably not going to remember it because of 4 years ago.
No, I don't remember it. Yeah. Last week, him there on the cut stepping rail that talk no for them.
Yeah, so I forget a call because, I want to tell us, I really appreciate the work that you have been doing. And I mean, there's a lot of books that I've been reading that I get from this program. So I just want
that is good, man.
Beautiful. Yeah, I'm going to big up Mandingo too.
Well, you talk a while about the lecture?
No, I never hear it, because
CLARKE.
Because I always listen on YouTube, so.
Okay, so anybody is going to listen to that tomorrow?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So I'm going to hear myself tomorrow.
All right, sir. All right.
Yeah, but I want to tell you, John Henry Clark, yourself, Ben Yokan, and Ivan Van
Sertima, yeah.
Yeah, man. At that program, I'm going to get all of them off. So,
all right,
I tell them, I'm going to book for myself now, I'm going to get off for the program, so.
Enough respect, and then Alabama too. Enough book where him said to me, have them in a me. Wish list for Amazon.
Yeah, give me some book too about Earthing and all them book there.
Yeah, and the brother they too always a big up the man them out of East and them man they conscious too, you know. So I just want enough respect to him and them. And one I think to Muta, what I want to do, like tell Brian say when him for your Instagram page, tell him to put up the phone number them for calling on the bio page, cause yeah, the number them for calling on the program. Cause about an hour may I search for the number.
Oh yeah.
I couldn't find it.
But yeah, man like you are listening, supposed to know the number them for a long time, man.
Yeah, so tell Brian to put it up there, man.
All right, sir. Give thanks. Yeah?
Enough respect, Muta. Yeah, man. I'm blessed up the whole Irish family. So, yeah. Muta, one thing I want to ask you. One thing before you go.
Yeah.
One to the brother where I was a caller, the PMP brother, where name from down Westmoreland there. Mr. Universe. I don't hear nothing about him from when.
I'm turn PNP. I'm JLP now. I'm turn JLP.
Oh, okay.
I don't know what him. A long time I don't hear from him still.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't hear him on the program from him. All
right, sir. Blessed, yeah?
Yeah, man. Respect, Muta.
Yes. This is the cutting edge. Yes. I want to tell the people themselves we will be back here from 2 o'clock, 2 p.m. to 5:45 with the stepping razor. The art of war. Totally different things. Totally different. Yes.